I've always wanted someone to tell me they loved me. From the beginning of my life, I looked around and saw love. Mothers loving their children enough to cherish them and hold them close. Fathers loving their children enough to discipline them with stern words and a comforting voice. Siblings loving each other enough to play and have fun and help each other. Lovers holding each other with a gentle caress you'd handle fine china with. Love was a story that I saw on the covers of every narrative that walked by me. But those were the stories I was forbidden to read. Instead, I opened my book, my old, tattered, weathered down book, and read what I already knew was my life. A mother, controlling, abusive, and manipulative. Her loving me in her own way is like saying poison is killing me in its own way. It doesn't matter the method when the end result is me on the edge of life, hanging precariously over the cliff and wondering what would happen if I just leaned forward a little. A father, absent from birth, not finding me worth staying around for, seeing the disappointment that I would become and wanting anything but to be dragged down with me. A sibling only caught in the arguments and torn apart from the inside out, only leaving the madness of what their life was. Growing up to be as manipulative and controlling as the woman from whose womb she was raised. And every lover that came my way was only after one thing or another. Was after my attention, was after my body, was after my good name, was after my hard-earned currency that they deemed more important than my own self-security. I kept reading my story over and over and then again and again, and every time that I thought I could be loved, life shoved my nose into the pages of my autobiography that had "I hate myself" written on every speck of blank space available. I read that book daily, and the words burned into the back of my mind until it was all I could do but write my own self-hatred into my skin. With every move of the knife across it, I felt the last words of my story being written in red. I am not worthy of love. I am not worthy of space. I am not worthy of life. I am not worthy, and that has been my value since birth. From the moment I was conceived, I ruined everything that was near to me. My mother's marriage ruined. My sister, who had 2 parents and a good life, ruined. My family, who had no one to pull in from the rain, because I thought that if I couldn't drown myself in sorrow, I could at least allow the universe to pour out its vengeance upon me. My friends, who had no depressed nut job, calling them every night, talking about ending it all. The ending of all the burdens I placed on those around me is what flooded out of my wrists when I decided to finish the story with my name on it. I cried as the words left my veins. Why wasn't I good enough? Why wasn't I smart enough or pretty enough? Why did I ruin my mother's marriage before I was even able to crawl? Why did my father look me in the eye and think to himself of all the sacrifices he would have to make for this kid with no profit to be gained in turn? I was a bad investment deal from day one. Why did my family treat me like the poor kids I saw in the movies, the ones they called orphans? I had a mother, I had a father, but both wanted nothing to do with me. My friends only talked to me because of the foreshadowing of events planned out from the moment I breathed life into my lungs. So as an orphan, abandoned by those close to him, I cry. I cry for every moment I heard someone say "I love you," and it wasn't to me. I cry for every moment a mother hugged her son, and I didn't feel the embrace. I cry for every time a father picked up his prince or princess with a scraped knee while I was still on the ground bleeding. I cry for every friend eager and excited to see one another while I only brought about dark times with gloomy aftertones. I cry for every time that love entered this world and left without stopping by to say hello. Why can't anyone love me? That's all I've ever wanted, was to be loved by someone. Anyone. Why? Why can't I be loved? Why? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? All of a sudden, this book in my hands is no longer tattered and worn. It looks like it was made from solid gold, but I still recognize the lettering, written in blood, spelling out my name. I open it, and on the first page is this letter. My dear little one, I'm sitting on a throne looking at the stars, and I'm overwhelmed. There are so many beautiful things, showing light from amazing stars and planets and nebula clouds, so many gorgeous and wonderful things I made. Myself, a gifted artist who handcrafted everything in existence. I see nothing but angels surrounding me, singing my praises, heaven all around, the most wonderful things you could imagine, with my most beloved son sitting next to me. And yet, I am looking straight at you, the most beautiful thing my hands have ever made. I can't take my eyes off you. I love you more than you can understand. I find you beautiful, my child. Every time you look at me, it makes me so happy that I can't help but smile. Your heart is so loving, and I feel joy every time you danced or sang or created something for me. I've made entire galaxies and seen all history has and will offer, and yet I find you to be the most interesting thing in existence. I love you, my special one. From here to the moon and back. And I know you don't mean to mess up, and that the sin filling your eyes is just a blindfold helping you to ignore the pain you see that fills this world. But if you only wipe away the heartache that you hold so close, you'd be able to see what's all around you. Love. Love is everywhere, my child. Look to your mom. She had the option of killing you in the womb or laying you on a doorstep, and she may not be the perfect mother, but she cared for you, and she wants to see you succeed. That, my child, is love. Look to your father. He didn't see you as a bad investment deal with high risk and no reward. He saw you as a child so full of potential that he wanted nothing to do with you so that his failures wouldn't follow you through life. That, my child, is love. Look to your sister, the one with her own child, vowing and swearing by their special one to be different than the world she grew up in. She has included you in this newborn's life to be a role model as someone who went through it all and is still fighting for the right to breathe. That, my child, is love. Look to your family. They don't have to pull you in from the rain, but they do every time. They pull you in, throw a towel and a warm blanket over you, and make you some soup to warm your body and soul. That, my child, is love. Look to your friends who are there night after night, despite what you might believe. They are more than glad to help you get through life because they care and they value your friendship. But if nothing else, my child, look to the blood on the cover of this book. Notice that it is not yours. Notice that it may be fresh, but it was spilled over 2,000 years ago. Notice that it is spelling out your name on this Lamb's Book of Life. Notice it has covered everything in this book that you were so ashamed of. Notice it was more than enough for any troubles that were engraved on the pages. You see, my child, there was a man who walked the earth and went through everything you've gone through and more. And that man endured his whole life only to be sentenced by death by the very ones he came to save. But he had a choice. And he chose to take the price for everything you've done. Don't shrink away as I speak. Remove the blindfold and you will see that the love that was put on display for you that day, some 2,000 years ago, was more than enough. I love you, my child, but that cross was for you, for your transgressions against me, for the sins that clouded your mind and has altered your behavior since your time in the garden. But that man, Jesus, went to hell and back to take your place so you could be with us in heaven. He loved you through your sin and still does today. He would go to the cross every day if he needed to. For you, he would, and he did show you love in the most extreme, pure state. And I look up from the book thinking, why me? I'm nobody. I do nothing but hurt those I'm around. I deserve death, and I deserve to go to hell, but mercy said no. Mercy said, come here, my child. Let me wrap you in my arms. Let me cover you in love. Let me boast about how proud I am of you. Let me send you as my own ambassador, trusted and trained to show others what real love is. Let me use you throughout all the world as a beacon of hope and light and love in this world full of pain and darkness. And I realize that this was one lover that was not like the others. This lover was not after my attention, was not after my body, was not after my good name, was not after my hard-earned currency, because this one deemed my own self-security to be more important. I kept reading the story over and over of the man who took my place, and then again and again, and every time I doubted that I could be loved, God guided my hand into the pages of his autobiography that had "I love you" written on every speck of blank space available. I read that book daily, and the words burned into the back of my mind until it was all I could do but walk in his love and authority. With every movement of God across the crust of this earth, I felt the loving words of Jesus' story written in red that says, you are worthy of space. You are worthy of life. You are highly sought after and irreplaceable, and that has been your value since birth. From the moment you were conceived or even thought of, you were loved by everything that I am. My child, I love you.